Here we are at Light Projects in Northcote, and there's a great little show called Forms of Deception. Let's go and have a look at it. These pictures are interesting, aren't they? It looks like a jar or a yogurt container of some kind, but are we looking at the real thing? Are we looking at a photograph of the real thing, or are we looking at a photograph of a painting or a photograph of an object? They're really beautiful, and the size is kind of curious too. They might even have, they're kind of trying to convince you that they are the real thing, but they're painted on and plaster cast, I think. So the idea of the old plaster mould and the plaster models that from times gone by. And this one here I kind of like because it's got a white space around it, so it's much more an object and an artefact maybe. Photographs is it brings three kind of major art forms together. Yeah. It brings photography, sculpture and painting all together to create the image. This is a picture by Stephen Palmer, and we've kind of got more games going on here. So here we have a photograph of a field and what looks like a shadow, but we can't see the object that's actually creating the shadow. So perhaps it's not a shadow at all. If you look closely here, you can actually see that it's actually painted on the grass and it's not really a shadow. So I think, you know, we're clearly, the name of the exhibition is Forms of Deception, so clearly all of these artists are thinking about the photograph, the truth of photographs, what is a picture, what is a real thing, what's the difference, the dialogue between a real thing and a representation of a thing. And this is a light box by Claire Ray, and a lot of these issues about representation and truth were kind of brought up in the 1980s. And in a way, this picture sort of brings that home because it's kind of got the sense of being a quotation from a Robert Longo drawing with the figures jumping in the air. But is this woman falling? Is she floating? You're not quite sure. When I first saw this picture a few minutes ago, I thought, oh yeah, that's nice, sheets of paper running through a photocopier, and they're blank sheets of paper. There's nothing kind of being printed on them. And then I kind of thought, well, photocopy is almost a very old sort of form of technology now. But I actually think there's more going on with this. And when you actually go to the notes, you actually find that your suspicion that there's more going on with this is actually right. This photocopier is not a photocopier, it's a sculpture. This artist has actually made this photocopier, or this look of a photocopier, and she has used time-lapse or time-stop photography to create the illusion of the paper going across the top of the photograph. So a kind of a very labour-intensive way of making an artwork, and in a way that it would have been much easier just to have a videotape of paper going across the top of a photocopier. But if you want to unpack the reality of images, then it takes a lot of time and a lot of work. So this seems a very convoluted and long way around to present us with a picture of paper going across the top of a photocopier. So have a look at this show at Northcote. It's quite fun. At Light Works in High Street, Northcote.